we know intuitively and we know scientifically that sunlight is incredibly healthy for humans. You have to get sun every single day. You shouldn't get sunburned. You shouldn't get overexposed, because obviously that's you start to damage the cells of your body, and you start to damage your body. But you have to get sun every day. You have to get it on your face, get it in your eyes, and let it cover as much of your body as possible.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reshape Your Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Morgan Nolte, and today I'm interviewing Bryan Gohl. He's a lifelong wellness advocate and co-founder of Red Light Rising, the top red light therapy supplier in the UK and Europe. He grew up and currently lives in South Africa. And today we're covering the role of light in everyday health, including energy, weight loss, mood, and recovery from exercise and injury. Bryan, thanks for joining the podcast. I'm really excited for this interview. Just so you know, we have had 1 to 2 other guests talk about light and circadian rhythm, but it's been a while. So I'm excited to revisit this topic and maybe dive a little bit deeper into the specifics about the benefits behind red light. But before we get there, just start with your story. Tell us who you are. And you mentioned you were a carpenter. So I'm kind of interested how a carpenter became a red light advocate. So give the mic to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I was a carpenter for, most of my young adult life, and I kind of stumbled into that. I got to the stage where I was tired of working like weird little odd jobs, and decided I should get a profession, as it were, and carpentry was great at the time. It's very difficult work, very hard work, but at the same time, it's, if the surf is really good, you can just take the day off work and go to the beach. So it was kind of fun in that way. But I noticed pretty quick that I spent almost all of my time while I was doing carpentry listening to health podcasts or listening to audio books about health and diet and exercise and general wellness. And after, a few years of doing carpentry like that, I really started to think like, man, all I think about is health. All I think about is wellness. But I spend 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day, building houses or building furniture or doing other stuff. And I just, that was kind of a disconnect for me inside. Like I wasn't really living my passion. And at the same time, I was vegetarian. I was vegetarian for about 7 years. Because I believed that it was the healthiest diet, the healthiest way to eat. But I was also very sick for that entire time. And for whatever reason, I just never made the connection that it might be my diet making me sick. And when I say sick, I had severe joint pain almost from day one. When I stopped eating meat and started eating a lot more vegetables, a lot more beans and rice and salads and things, I just got joint pain so quick. But because I was a carpenter and, I just thought, well, I must have banged it at work, or I must have been, doing some manual stuff that just didn't work out. But, when the joint pain sticks around for 7 years and you suddenly get, debilitating pain in your wrist that you can't even hold your cell phone, I started having kind of thoughts like, maybe something's wrong. And I also had severe digestive issues, I would have diarrhea the one day and then be constipated for 3 days and then have diarrhea again. And this went on for 7 years. It was nonstop for 7 years. And I'm just, for whatever reason, never ever clicked that it was my diet that was making me so unwell until someone else said it. I overheard a conversation of a woman in her, gosh, she must have been in her 60s at the time, speaking to someone else saying, oh, me and my husband were vegan for 20 years and my husband was sick for 20 years and we tried everything and nothing worked. And at the very bitter end, I just said to my husband, oh, maybe we should just try meat. It's the last thing that we have left to try. And then they started eating meat again and all his health problems went away. And that's when I clicked. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe this is me. So, I did a quick Google search and kind of found a couple of books. One of them, which, is kind of been debunked a little bit, I believe, is a book called Eat Right for Your Type. And that refers to, the blood types and how there's this theory that, some blood types are much older than others and therefore they do better with animal products, and the younger blood types do better with agricultural, products. And I just happened to have an O negative blood type. And the description was, enjoys a lot of meat or should eat a lot of meat, enjoys a lot of strenuous exercise and activity. And everything that they listed was me, because I used to love working out, but I had to stop because of all the joint pain. I had to eventually stop yoga because the joint pain was so bad. So, I read that book and, what the woman said, and I slowly started eating meat. And I just kept reading. And, a few years after that, the bulletproof coffee became a big thing. And then I found Dave Asprey, and I was reading all about the bulletproof coffee and the high fat diet. And I was like, this is crazy. How can you, replace your carbs with so much fat and it's good for you? I thought fat was bad for you. So I had to re-educate myself on the whole, carbs versus fat, the hormone optimization, the insulin and all that kind of stuff. Eventually got my head around the high fat diet and started drinking bulletproof coffee. And slowly I started reducing my vegetables and increasing my meat and my fat. And everything just started getting better. The joint pain started going away. The digestion started to settle down. And I went all the way to keto. I was eating, like a tiny handful of veg and a little bit of meat and covering everything in ghee. I then found my way eventually to carnivore. I heard about the carnivore diet a few years ago. And again, I was like, that's insane. You can't just eat meat. No ways. But I thought, look, I've got nothing to lose. Keto has healed me like 98%. Let's see what carnivore does. And then I went strict carnivore for about 6 or 7 months, and just everything came right. Like the fat just dropped off me. My pain completely disappeared. My digestion issues completely healed up. And it was literally like a miracle cure for me. But at the same time, I kept on reading, and especially books, by Dave Asprey and Ben Greenfield and Mark Sisson and a few other people, and then came across the biohacking stuff, the fasting, the cold therapy, the heat therapy, circadian rhythm, and red light therapy was, one of Dave Asprey's biggest recommendations, and still is at the as we speak. And I was, I did all the other things. I did the cold therapy. I did the sauna. I started fasting. I learned how to integrate it all into my daily habits. And then red light therapy was the next big one. And at that time, it was almost impossible to get red light therapy, for the average home user, especially in the UK. I was living in the UK at the time. You couldn't get anything there. So myself and a friend, we decided to kind of pool our resources together and see if we could have our own lights made up. Just had to spend some time researching technology and what actually is going on with red light therapy. And we made our first couple of lights, and it was the middle of winter, and I started using them. And I was a person at the time living in London in the UK that really, really struggled with the gray clouds and the cold and the dampness of London. And I was still a carpenter. I was actually in a really, really horrible place, like emotionally. I really didn't like my life anymore. It was, I got to the point where I don't want to say hate, but I really disliked my day job. I really disliked where I lived. I just disliked the weather. So I was pretty bummed out. And a few days after using red light therapy, I just started noticing so many new things that were happening to me. One of the first things I noticed was, as a carpenter, I used to have a lot of cuts and scrapes on my hands and hit myself with a hammer or cut myself with a knife or whatever. And I started noticing that the wounds that I was getting on my hands were healing a lot quicker. And that was really interesting to me. And I was, tracking my sleep at the time. I still track my sleep now and then. I was tracking my sleep, and I noticed an immediate increase in the quality of my sleep, immediate increase in, the REM sleep and the deep sleep. And I also noticed a tremendous improvement in my mood, literally within a few days. I was walking down the street, happy to be in London, happy to be a carpenter. And that's when it hit me, and I realized, oh my gosh, I think this red light therapy is really a thing. And then phoned up my buddy, and I was like, well, how are you finding the light? Like, what do you feel? And he also said, I love it. I'm sleeping like a baby, and whatever else he said. And that's when we decided, well, this red light therapy is legit. We have to spread the word. We have to, help other people feel better, like it was helping us feel better. And now it's, we're nearly 5 years since then, and we've had some phenomenal results from our clients. It's really been exciting.
Yeah, what are the main results that you see from your clients? And also, can you just give us a little bit more background into your company? Is it like red light? What do you guys sell exactly to be able to use the red light in the home? Let's start there.
Okay, so what we sell is we sell mainly red light therapy devices. So these are LED-based devices, and they come in a variety of different shapes. So there's a small spotlight size, and they go all the way up to giant panels the size of a door. So you can get, literally head to toe, shoulder to shoulder covered in this, very powerful red light every time you do a session. We also sell blue blocking glasses, and we decided to sell the blue blocking glasses because it's one of the easiest lifestyle hacks that you can do to improve your sleep and improve your health and protect your eyes, is just pop on a pair of blue blocking glasses at the right time of the day. And it really ties in with the whole kind of practice around optimizing your light environment. Red light therapy is a very powerful therapy to kind of expose your body to. But the bigger picture, what I realized, a few years after using red light therapy, is that it's a keystone in an overall light environment, which refers to the circadian rhythm. So we can definitely get into that. So we sell LED panels, and initially when we started the company, myself and my partner were quite young, relatively speaking, and we were all about working out and sport and optimizing your performance and your recovery from workouts. So that's kind of what we focused on originally. We wanted to help people like us feel better after their workouts, perform better during their workouts, have faster muscle growth, have faster recovery from delayed onset muscle soreness. And we started selling the products kind of in that fashion. But what we started to notice after a while is that the best reviews and the best testimonials we were getting were from people in their 50s and 60s who weren't athletes, but they just had a lot of joint pain, or they weren't sleeping properly, or they had eye problems. And red light therapy helps all of that. So we started noticing that it's actually these older generations that aren't necessarily keen athletes, and they're getting the absolute best benefits. We do work with a lot of athletes, but when you're younger and healthier, the results are a little bit less tangible, because you're generally eating pretty well, you're looking after your sleep environment, you're hydrating, you're exercising, you're getting your daily movement. And red light therapy is like it's a cherry on top, because it'll make everything else work better. But when you're a little bit older, in your late 50s, 60s, 70s, when the mitochondria start to slow down, that's when red light therapy really comes in handy.
Yeah, I think from there, we have to address the skeptics with some science. And so let's talk about the circadian rhythm. And then specifically, I want to get to eventually how red light impacts the mitochondria.
Okay, beautiful. So the circadian rhythm speaks to the day-night cycles that our bodies go through. So I'm sure a lot of your audience will be familiar with it, but roughly speaking, the circadian rhythm is controlled and triggered by your light environment. And the light environment, we've evolved to have a very, very specific light environment, and that light is the sun. Sun comes up, goes through the day, goes down at the end of the day. It's darkness. That's when you're supposed to sleep. And then you get up again when the sun comes. But things are starting to go wrong, because as you can see in my environment right now, it's 7:30 at night. It's dark outside, but I've got all this bright light. So technically speaking, my body is now thinking, hang on a second. Normally it's dark at this time. What's happened? And that can start to confuse the body. So what's happening in the body, generally speaking, is that when the sun comes up, it's supposed to kind of, come into your window and wake you up, and that alerts your brain. Your brain gets the signal, hey, the sun is coming up. It must be time to wake up. So you wake up and your cortisol spikes, you get a little adrenaline spike, and hopefully you jump out of bed and you're ready for the day. And as the sun goes through, its normal cycle, you get all different kinds of of colors coming from the sun. It starts off, very, very bright kind of yellow, and then warms as it gets to midday. And then obviously towards the sunset again, it turns into the oranges and the reds and the purples of the sunset, and then darkness again. And your body, your brain and the cells of your body are actually counting down. So they register when you first see light in the morning, and then it starts to count down. And it expects, if your circadian rhythm is optimized, it'll expect darkness at a certain time, and it will then receive the signal of diminishing light around sunset time where you live, and your brain will start to prepare for sleep. It'll release the sleep hormone melatonin that goes into your blood and begins to prepare the rest of your body for sleep. And then hopefully you hit the pillow and you sleep like a baby. That's the dream scenario. Where red light therapy comes in, and why red light therapy is so useful to have, is because we know intuitively and we know scientifically that sunlight is incredibly healthy for humans. You have to get sun every single day. You shouldn't get sunburned. You shouldn't get overexposed, because obviously that's you start to damage the cells of your body, and you start to damage your body. But you have to get sun every day. You have to get it on your face, get it in your eyes, and let it cover as much of your body as possible. And one of the reasons why that is so important is because the type of light that comes from the sun, a type of light that comes from the sun is called near infrared light. The infrared light is what you kind of sense as warmth when you feel that lovely warmth of the sun on your face. But what's so incredible about it, it's one of the only kinds of light that can penetrate your body up to 3 inches. So it goes very, very deep into your body. And what it does is, which is another miracle, is that all the cells of your body have photoreceptors. So the easiest way to think of that is, you get some sun on your skin, you get a lovely tan, or you get sunburned, but that's because of the photoreceptors. It's the certain parts of the cells that can absorb light and use light in whatever way, it deems necessary. And near infrared light is the most useful kind of light that does come from the sun, penetrates your body, goes into your cells, and has an absolute phenomenal effect on your cells. Two of the most important things that red light and near infrared light do to the body is it can be used as a cellular energy. So it can penetrate into the mitochondria, it gets involved in one of the energy cycles there, and it can actually utilize this wavelength of light to increase cellular energy production. And when your cellular energy gets increased and optimized, everything tends to get better. Whether you're talking about muscles and how fast they can contract and how hard they can contract, to how fast they can recover from an insult or an injury, to your skin and the cells of your skin, how much collagen they produce to reduce the fine lines and wrinkles, to the cells of your eyes and how it can help your eyes energize and repair and fight off any damage from blue light from screens, down to arthritic joints and broken bones and your lungs and your heart. It's absolutely phenomenal for all the cells of the body, because all the cells of the body are able to absorb this light. And we're able to absorb this light because we evolved with the sun over millions of years. And the sun has always been, a part of our daily lives. And the second very amazing thing that red light therapy does is it's also a hormetic stressor. And a hormetic stressor is like when you do a workout, you're kind of stressing your muscles. They suffer temporarily, but then they come back stronger. Cold therapy is a hormetic stressor. Like when you're in the cold water, your body's panicking and your cells go into emergency mode. But then when you get out the water and you obviously relax your breathing, and your nervous system realizes, okay, it's not the end of the world. And then you get this flood of beneficial enzymes and molecules that circulate around your body and make you better. Red light therapy does the same thing. It's a tiny hormetic stressor, and it stimulates and promotes the release of natural anti-inflammatories and antioxidants into the bloodstream, into the cells. And those antioxidants can go around the body and just help clean up whatever free radicals you've got from lifestyle or just generally being alive. Unfortunately, you can produce some free radicals. So it's a very, very powerful therapy.
Let me ask you this, because the sun has that full spectrum of colors, when is red light the most powerful from natural sunlight during daytime hours?
So the best time to get your red light therapy, quote unquote, in nature is sunrise and sunset. Now it's the red light is very, very useful and beneficial at those times of the day, but it's not the same as what we've just discussed. The red light from the sun doesn't penetrate your body to the depth that the infrared does. The infrared's invisible, so you don't actually see it. You don't see it on our lights either. So if you look at an infrared bulb, you don't see the light because it's invisible. But what's important about the red light from the sun is it's a circadian marker. So your biology knows that when it sees the red of the sunrise followed by bright light, this must be morning, because it's the only time in nature where red light is followed by bright light. And then same thing at the end of the day. The only time that happens in nature is red light is followed by darkness. That's another circadian marker to your brain and your body that it's, I've had the red light, the bright light, it's been daytime, I've done my daily chores, I then see red light again, followed by darkness, must be sleep time. And that's how you get that onset of melatonin.
Yeah. So is that one of the reasons that a common recommendation to improve sleep is to get morning sunlight?
Absolutely.
To get the red light and then the bright light. Now, another thing that I was reading recently was just vitamin D from the sun. But for that, they recommended, I think it was like 10 to 15 or 10 to 30 minutes, but that was more midday sun, so our bodies really do need sunshine. However, I live in Nebraska, which you probably don't know where that is. It's in the middle of the United States. And we're really lucky in that we have all 4 seasons. We have a great spring and a lovely summer and a lovely fall and a lovely winter. But about half of the year, we only have, our head and neck exposed when we're outside because we're bundled up. So we're really not getting very much vitamin D from the sun. And we're probably not getting exposure to that morning sunlight or the red light. So like you, I really have, in my opinion, and it's not diagnosed, but suffered with the seasonal affective disorder, or that SAD. It's kind of ironic that the acronym is SAD. And that's kind of where you don't get the light in the wintertime and you just kind of have the doldrums of winter. And so that's why last winter I got a Planet Fitness membership, because they had this like total body enhancement. And we were discussing this offline. You don't know the quality of the product. I don't know the quality of the product, but all I knew was I needed light and I needed more light for my mood. And I did notice a benefit from my mood, like from last winter when I did that a few times a week, even to previous winters where I was getting less light. So I just wanted to highlight, like, yeah, there's benefits to red light, but just sunlight in general, your body really does crave that, and it needs it for vitamin D and it needs it for the circadian rhythm. But let's kind of pinpoint just a little bit more. When you said that it can be used in the mitochondria for energy, did you mean it can be an actual substrate in which ATP is formed, or does it just help the process along? Like, so what help the Krebs cycle or whatever cycle it's using for aerobic or anaerobic energy? Is it just help that cycle along?
Exactly. So what it actually affects the Krebs cycle. You're exactly right. And what it does is it unlinks some nitrogen in the chain, in the electron transport chain. It causes some nitrogen to be released into the bloodstream, which is a great thing because the nitrogen oxide, should I say, that then goes and it causes vasodilation. So that's where you get one of the incredible benefits of red light therapy is increase in blood flow. Yep. And blood flow generally is very beneficial for everybody, because when you have better blood flow, you have better nutrient transport throughout your body. So if you're trying to heal an injury or improve your complexion or almost anything you're trying to achieve health-wise in your body, increasing blood flow is usually very helpful. Yes. So the red light or the near infrared light particularly gets involved in the Krebs cycle. It causes that release, that unlinking of nitrogen oxide into the bloodstream, which increases blood flow. But that space that's left on the chain gets filled up with oxygen. So then you get an extra oxygen molecule in every single cycle that's producing ATP. So that's why it produces more ATP, because there's more oxygen to be utilized in that little process.
Okay. So, and just for people that didn't know, that's also a really big benefit of exercise, is that it stimulates that production of nitrous oxide to cause that vasodilation. So I'm kind of always trying to equate like, well, okay, well, how does this benefit mimic a benefit of like exercise, or mimic a benefit of, something that we can do kind of naturally on our own? But sometimes when you're injured, you can't really exercise. So in physical therapy, we actually had like red light machines, and we would hold it over, for example, a wound or a hurt, especially like from a ligament standpoint, really to help with that. So we did use this in physical therapy. At the time, I was like, what am I doing? If you don't know the science behind it, it can seem kind of quacky, but I think that there's enough evidence, and especially enough just, client testimonials. It's like sometimes when you can't exercise and you need that healing to happen as fast as possible, like you notice, like with the carpentry, like because of your diet, you were very much limited in your exercise capacity. So I think you kind of had a unique perspective to gain the benefits of red light, because you couldn't necessarily harness the benefits of movement, but what if you do it now? I think you're kind of putting them together, like you said, and you're like, everything's clicking on all cylinders here. So can you speak just a little bit more so I can understand the infrared light compared to the red light? Will you do your machines give you both benefits, or, is the infrared light from a natural sunlight source highest more at high noon when the sun is warmer? Like, just help me understand that a little bit better.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of the sun, so you're getting your red light at the sunrise and the sunset, and then you're getting your infrared light at varying levels throughout the day. So around the midday time, you're correct, it's hotter, so that infers that there's more infrared light coming. Infrared light is a massive spectrum in itself. So a lot of people will hear infrared saunas. Infrared saunas are really trending these days. And then they'll hear, infrared light, in the context of what we're talking about. Although they use the same terminology, they're actually at opposite ends of the spectrum. So the red light the infrared light that we're talking about when we say red light therapy is near infrared. So although it's a very long wavelength, it's a lot shorter than far infrared. And far infrared's what they use in the saunas.
Okay.
Both fantastic, but they're different kinds of light. They work on the body in different ways. So when we go back to red light therapy, yes, our devices and the entire red light therapy industry, we all use red light, which is manifest as very, very bright red light, and we all use near infrared light. There's some slight differences between the actual wavelengths. So, light is measured in wavelengths, and it can literally be like, 660, 661, 662, 663, and they're all slightly different shades of red as you go. So yes, so the red light is clearly visible as red. The near infrared light is invisible. And the main difference, which is very useful for people to understand, is that red light generally only affects the outside of the body. It doesn't have the ability to penetrate deep into the body. So the visible red light is really, really good for your eyes, really good for your skin, really good for your teeth, actually, really good for your hair, your nails, everything on the outside of the body. The near infrared light, they both do very similar things in the cells in terms of stimulating energy and stimulating the antioxidants, but they do it at different levels. So the near infrared goes into your organs, goes into your bones and your muscles, goes into the back of your eyes, goes into your brain, and does really tremendous things for all the cells in those areas.
Okay. I'm really glad that I asked you to clarify that, because I think you brought some good detail out there. So what is the recommended time frame and frequency in which someone should use red light? Or are there certain populations that maybe don't need red light therapy because they get enough light from the sun? So how does someone kind of determine, is this something that I might need in my lifestyle?
As crazy as it sounds to say this, the sicker you are, the more benefits you're going to get from red light therapy, because generally you've got more inflammation than is good for you. You've got mitochondria that are struggling to keep up with your energy demands, struggling to produce enough energy to help you recover from whatever illness you might be struggling with. So that's when red light therapy really comes into its own for people that are, perhaps, late 50s, 60s, 70s, starting to have some, lifestyle concerns maybe, or just general aging concerns. And it's also especially good for people like yourself if you have a long, dark winter. So I'm not sure about your sunrises and your sunsets during winter, but in the UK where I used to live, it's dreadful. The sun comes up really late. The sky is gray all day. It goes down really early. You absolutely have a massive lack of bright light. Like you said, not only do you need the brightness of the sun, but you need all the different types of light that come from the sun, all the UVs, all the infrareds, and all the other colors. They all have important roles to play. And it is important to get it all over your body, because all the cells of your body can absorb this light, whether it's from the sun or from a red light device. They can all absorb this light, and it's what actually happens is phenomenal. I've learned two incredible things recently. It's so exciting because the red light therapy research is ongoing constantly. So every couple of months there's another amazing paper that comes out with this beautiful new discovery, or this this new conclusion, or more proof. And two really incredible things that I've learned in the last few months is the effects on bone density that red light therapy has. Which once you start getting into the older populations, bone density is so important, because if your skeleton's not strong enough to hold up your body, there's a lot of unfortunate things that can happen. But red light is really, really good for helping the bones get thicker and harder and stronger. And something else that's incredible, which is why I always recommend to people that you should do red light therapy in a way that you can cover as much of your body as possible. And the reason for that is because, even though you might only have a painful shoulder and you want to treat your shoulder, which is fine, there's so many more benefits to be had if you can cover your whole body. And the biggest one right now that I'm aware of is actually the production of melatonin in the cells of the body. So most people know melatonin as the sleep hormone. It's produced in the brain. When there's a big lack of light, your brain thinks it's darkness. It thinks it's time to sleep. So it produces melatonin in the brain, and it goes into the bloodstream and puts your body to sleep. But we now know, this is a very recent discovery, we now know that most of the melatonin in our bodies is actually produced in the cells. Every single one of our cells in the rest of the body produce melatonin as well. But it doesn't produce it for sleep benefits. It produces it for its antioxidant benefits. So it's a very, very powerful antioxidant. And near infrared light stimulates that production of melatonin inside the cells, which is such a powerful antioxidant. And as we know, antioxidants is what we're all trying to get through our food, through our face creams, through, who knows what other ways we're trying to get antioxidants. But our bodies make the best type of antioxidant natural, and it does that with near infrared light.
Yeah, I know. I just read Cynthia Thurlow's book, Intermittent Fasting Transformation, recently, and she mentioned that melatonin as an antioxidant, which was kind of new to me when I read that book. I thought that was really interesting. I think that we also, you mentioned the kind of who it might be most helpful for. So the thicker you are, the more you need light. I mean, it's not rocket science. I'm a geriatric physical therapist, so I did a lot of home care. And people who are the sickest are those who are confined to, like an assisted living facility or a nursing home, and they're not moving and they're not getting light. and they're not getting nutritious food, unfortunately. So you can just kind of see it. And I think another thing, just from my own personal experience, my husband and I love the beach, and we love going to the beach in the wintertime. And it's unreal, the difference in our mood before and after we get a dose of sunlight. Like, it's so great. So I wanted to ask your opinion. I know that getting light kind of therapy during the winter is beneficial, but you mentioned about different wavelengths as well and different colors. So what would you recommend for someone like me who has a long, dreary winter? You're exactly right. The sun comes up late, it's kind of dreary, and then it goes down early. So if I do some red light therapy, am I getting some benefits, or am I getting quite a lot of benefits compared to the summertime when I can have exposed skin to the sun?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I always recommend that people get as much natural light as possible. So even on those dreary days, hopefully around lunchtime when it's kind of bright, it's still very, very valuable to you to just go outside and turn your face to the sun, because your eyes and the cells of your skin, however much you can expose, is constantly measuring. So it's measuring tiny little differences in the spectrum of light that's coming from the sun throughout the day. So regardless of where you live or how dreary it is, it's highly advised to get as much sun as possible. But red light therapy is a very, very powerful supplement for that. Yeah. So what someone like you could use red light therapy for, and this is how I try to explain it to my clients, is use it at the same time every day, and use it as an artificial sunrise and sunset. Because remember, you're only going to see that red light in nature at sunrise and sunset. So if you're the kind of person that has the same wake up time every day and the same bedtime every night, that's absolutely perfect, because then you can put your first red light therapy session just after you wake up. So it's kind of like a sunrise. Your body receives the bright red light and the near infrared light, and then you go about your day with some bright light. And then an extra cherry on the top is to have another session around your sunset time. So it can be kind of tricky. So because I'm assuming then that your summer days are longer and the sun comes up earlier, it goes down later. Yep. The trick in terms of circadian biology is to try and keep your sunrise and sunset at the same time, regardless of the time of year. So that is tricky because of what you said about winter and what you said about summer. But if you can get in the habit of using your red light at the same time throughout the year, you should notice, you will receive a more optimized circadian rhythm, because your body is actually almost down to the minute of what it's doing, and that's actually really important for everything you do. It's advised to eat your meals at the same time every day, to exercise at the same time every day, to drink water at the same time every day, because your body is counting, it's counting down between every time that happens. So if it knows at 9 a.m. we have breakfast, it's actually will tone down everything else and turn up the digestive processes, because it knows there's food coming. Same with exercise. If you exercise at 2 p.m. every day, it knows that there's exercise coming, and the cells of the body will prepare for exercise.
I have another question on the length of time. So just using myself for an example, from a practical standpoint, maybe like 6 a.m. and 9 p.m., because that's about sunrise and sunset kind of at the height of summer, and throughout the summer. So I could see that. But how long? Like, how long of an exposure to the light do you recommend?
Do you mind if I ask, what time would you go to sleep then in the summer? If sunsets at 9 p.m., what time do you go to sleep?
Currently my goal is about that. So we're trying to head to bed between 8:45 and 9 to 9:15. And then my goal is to really be asleep no later than 10. And I like my goal is 8 hours of sleep, but some nights it's closer to 7.
Okay. So sunset should generally be 2 to 4 hours before sleep time.
Okay. So a little bit, maybe push that up with just a little bit then. Okay.
That's what I would recommend. It depends how deep you want to get into the rabbit hole. It's not ideal for a lot of people, but sunset generally, if you were in nature, you wouldn't be, it kind of goes, it harps back to the ancestral lifestyle. If you were a hunter-gatherer still, you wouldn't be going to sleep at sunset because the sun would go down, you'd start the fire, you'd cook hopefully cook a little bit of food, tell some stories around the fire, and then go to sleep after that. So I'm of the opinion that there should be a few hours gap between your sunset and your sleep. But timing wise, 10 minutes is usually the max. Okay. It really depends. If you were like, look, I want it for general health and circadian rhythm, then 10 minutes is fine. There's a little bit of nuance depending which device of ours that you're using, what size it is, etc. But in your situation, 10 minutes is fine.
Yeah, and you're right. Sunset's probably more like 8 here. I'm a really bad time estimator. But now that you're saying that, yeah, it's probably more like 8. We get the kids in bed. It's about 8. Yeah.
In the UK, in the summer, it used to drive me mad because the sun goes down at 10 p.m.
Oh my goodness.
And that's horrible. Many people think, oh, that's wonderful. The days are so long. You can do so much more. And it's kind of exciting for a bit. But if you were like me at that point, I was, doing a physical job. Like I'm pretty tired by 10 p.m. and it's still sunny outside. It used to drive me mad.
Absolutely.
That's one of the reasons I left the UK, because those long days are just no good for me.
I love my eye mask. I do the blue light blockers as well. So those I swear by, like those really amber colored blue light blockers. I put those on every night after sunset, and they really, really help me fall asleep faster. And then they help me sleep deeper. So if you're listening and you're struggling with sleep, those were a really great investment on my part. I think that is there a tolerable upper limit, I think is a good way to phrase this, for the red light. Like if someone is desperate to heal from an injury, for example, is there a maximum amount of time for that goal that you would recommend?
Yeah, it's always around the 10, 15, 20-minute mark. And the reason it is that because the cells can only absorb so much light per session. Okay. And the calculation that we had to do was to, roughly find out from the scientific literature how much light that actually is, and then compare that to how powerful our lights are, and then do the calculation to see how much time it would take for that amount of energy to hit the body. So with our devices, it's never more than 20 minutes. Okay. And more is unfortunately not better.
Yeah.
So as tempting as
reach their capacity to absorb it. Okay.
Exactly. And then you're just wasting time, and you actually start to undo the benefits, because it starts to, it's nothing negative about it. There's nothing harmful, but you just get into the wasting time territory.
Okay. I'm hoping that people listening can really see the benefits to the mitochondria and the energy production, and equate that to whatever your health goal is, like weight loss, reduced disease risk, better health, less inflammation, because the healthier your cells are and the mitochondria within those cells, the better you're just going to function in general. I have a couple selfish questions. So the first is, when do you exercise? So you said you should exercise at the same time every day. Is that kind of person specific, or from your research, have you found there's a benefit to exercising at a certain time of day versus other times?
It's a little bit of both. So a lot of people, myself included, I used to work out pretty much as soon as I woke up. So I would wake up, I would hydrate, I'd have some salt, I'd have some water, I'd walk around a little bit, get some movement. I would then do some foam rolling, do my red light therapy, and then go straight outside and work out as the sun is coming up. But recently, I've actually changed to working out in the afternoons around lunchtime. No reason for that, other than I find that I'm more productive at work in the morning. Yeah. If I start really early. So I still wake up, foam roll, hydrate, red light therapy, and then I actually go outside. And actually that's a bit of a mistruth there. I do go outside and I do probably a 40-minute workout in the sun, in the sunrise. It's not my main workout. It's more just like a movement practice. I do kettlebell stuff. And then I'm lucky where I live that the sun literally rises in front of me. So I've got my shirt off and I just face that sunrise. I look towards the sun. I let the sun go in my eyes. I let it cover my whole body while I'm doing my movement practice. And that is like, that's a big, loud message to the body. Like, we are awake. It's time to function. Like you can compare that. You can compare that to an ancestral lifestyle. Like, I'm running through the jungle, like trying to get some food,
Yeah.
And then I'll go inside and I'll work for a few hours, and then lunchtime I'll go back outside and do my main workout, and that's usually about an hour and a half. And that's again, because it's around lunchtime, the sun is a lot more intense here in South Africa, so there'll be a lot of sun exposure, but not prolonged.
Yeah.
So my outdoor gym is half in the shade, half in the sun. So I'll do most in the shade, and then, just go into the sun for, 20, 30 seconds at a time, constantly throughout that hour and a half. So I'm getting a lot of that UVB, vitamin D sun. So
Interesting. Some people are like, oh my gosh, she works out so much. She works out for a long time. I'm certainly not up to that level of, red light, the rigor of your morning routine is far exceeds mine, number one. But I think there's some really practical applications here, and I don't work out that long each day. And I have not found a great time of the day. I know night does not work well for me, for my hormones. I don't want to work out at night because I don't sleep well. I like working out in the morning, but I also find that my body needs the sleep. So I kind of go back and forth between morning if I get enough sleep, but if I don't get enough sleep, I'm not going to wake up early and sacrifice my sleep just to work out, because I usually do it later, like at the end of my workday. I find I really like that. It's a really nice transition between work and family life for me. That's probably my current favorite, but if I can just knock it out in the morning, I like to do that. But a really practical tip that I've done is eat outside. Like, I'll eat my lunch outside and I'll prop my legs up and I get as much sun exposure as I can. And I take, 10 or 15 minutes for a lunch break away from my devices. I really like that little trick. Any other like helpful tips to kind of incorporate getting more sun? I know one person brushes her teeth outside and she does some grounding work too. So she gets, she takes her shoes off and goes on the grass and brushes her teeth to get her morning sunlight. Any other like helpful tips there that you have?
I guess I'm in a very, very lucky position because, I after living in the UK for so long and realizing how important the sun was to me, I specifically chose where I live now to maximize the exposure to the sun. So, like a lot of people, I'm on my computer a lot. I'm, from about 8 a.m., I'm on the computer, I'm on the phone, I'm, doing Zooms, doing this and that. But I set the timer on my phone religiously. I do 40 minutes of device time, and then I get up and move. And most of those movement breaks, I'll go outside. And even if I'm just walking up and down in the yard, I'm just, I'm changing what I'm looking at. I'm looking at things at a distance. I'm just giving my eyes that little bit of exercise because, from focusing at the close range, then focusing at the distance, I've got my shirt off, I'm barefoot, I'm looking towards the sun, I'm feeling the warmth. So yeah, just if you're able to, try and get as much natural light as possible. If you're in an office, go outside as often as is acceptable. Take off your spectacles, don't wear sunglasses. If you struggle to see outside without sunglasses, that means your eyes are weak. That means specifically you have to expose yourself more to the sun. Red light therapy actually is very, very good for strengthening eyes as well. So it's like a double whammy there. Yeah, I think just that.
Hey, one more question before we wrap up on the sunglasses, because that's a really interesting topic. Can you explain just a smidge more your recommendation behind not wearing sunglasses? Do you ever wear sunglasses or recommend someone wear sunglasses?
I mean, outside of like maybe sunglasses have been recommended to you by a doctor. I'm not saying disobey your doctor, although I am saying be a little bit skeptical just to, make sure they know what they're talking about. but you have to get light in your eyes. That's the number one way that the sun communicates with your brain in order for the rest of your body to function properly. So if you wake up, you grab your coffee, you put your sunglasses on, and you run out into the sun, into the morning, your brain still thinks you're asleep. As far as your brain is concerned, there's no bright light coming into your eyes. It still thinks you're asleep. That's probably why you're groggy, why you're in a bad mood, why you're having, they call it sleep inertia, why you feel so sleepy for the first half of the morning. So getting sun in your eyes is very important. I used to wear sunglasses all the time because I couldn't, the bright sun was too much. Even when it was cloudy, the clouds was too much. And I stopped wearing sunglasses accidentally after I started red light therapy. Because at that stage, I had no idea how good it was for my eyes. But, within a few weeks after starting red light therapy, I just felt no need to pull out my sunglasses. And at the time, I was working as a carpenter, driving to and from work in the mornings and the evenings. So I was, always driving at sunrise. And I suddenly realized after a while, I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't reached for my sunglasses for weeks. And I was like, wow, my eyes have got stronger. And since then, I don't wear sunglasses at all, unless I'm, I'm trying to think in South Africa, I've never ever reached for my sunglasses. If you're going to be outside, like if you're going, to be at the beach where there's a lot of glare.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. In those situations, it is advisable because that's kind of like an unnatural amount of light, because generally sunlight comes from the top, right?
Okay.
The light's always above you. But when you're, at the beach and the light's coming up from the water, that's unnatural.
Or like the mountains, if you're snow skiing and the reflection off this, that's kind of what I was thinking. I'm like, I feel like anymore, I can drive without my sunglasses. I can be outside generally without them. But if I'm at the beach or if I'm on the water, like my eyes just feel kind of strained then.
Yes.
So that's when I kind of put them on, so to speak. Okay. I just wanted to see your opinion on that.
Exactly. That's, it's sensible use, but when you see people like going to work in the morning with the big giant black sunglasses on, it's like, I know your eyes hurt, but they hurt because you wear the sunglasses, and you're sleepy because you wear the sunglasses. So there is it has to be a gradual transition. It's not comfortable to just go cold turkey on the sunglasses, but there's a practice that's kind of making its way around called like sun gazing. Where you kind of look towards the sun at a certain angle for a few seconds a day, and you slowly increase it, and your eyes should strengthen that way.
Yeah, well, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. I hope that the listeners have learned a lot. I know I've definitely deepened my own kind of knowledge base on red light. Can you let us know where we can learn more about you and your company?
Sure, of course. The website is redlightrising.co.uk. We've got all our products up there, and we are most active on Instagram as well. If people are into that, it's at redlightrising, and I actually spend a lot of time on the Instagram as well, so people can reach me directly on Instagram if they wish. And they can also sign up for our emails, because we have a lot of I actually have a I offer free consultations to people that are, that have questions about red light therapy or how they can use it. So they can actually just reach out to us on Instagram or send us an email and say, hey, I want to speak to Bryan, and it'll eventually get back to me, and then we can arrange a one-on-one consultation with anybody who wants one.
Okay. And then do you guys ship to the US?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to double check. All right. We will link up that website. Thank you again for your time, Bryan. I know it's almost nighttime there for you, so I hope you have a good night.
I will. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye.